Welcome back to Son of Chelsea. Daniel Childs here for my instant match reaction to the game that just finished at the G-Tech. Brentford 0, Chelsea 0. Chelsea dropping points in the race for Champions League qualification. We will see how detrimental this result is in a few weeks' time, I suppose. But at the moment, it doesn't feel that great. I think mainly because of the way the game started in that first half and the lineup that Enzo Maresca opted to go with, which shocked all of us. I don't think it paid off. I don't think you can argue it paid off. The only thing you can argue is that, well, we won't be able to find out if it paid off because the payoff will be players remaining fit or having more energy for the Conference League game on Thursday or the upcoming Premier League games. But I'm not sure if that's the biggest plus, as we'll get into, especially for what the win could have meant today. Please do subscribe, like, give me your thoughts on the game in the comments below. Who was your man of the match? I think my man of the match was pretty obvious once again. I think it's a guy we've talked about so often and will, I think, be player of Chelsea season undeniably. The only place to start is the starting lineup, and this is probably one of the most staggering lineups in some time from Enzo Maresca, or at least even Poch. I mean, at this time of the year, especially in Premier League games, unless you have nothing to play for, or in terms of like the Premier League, for instance, let's say if there was nothing on the Premier League for Chelsea and we were solely focused on the Conference League, then you can understand if you're rotating a bit heavily, you have a massive injury crisis, or, you know, you're so close to the end of the season, then you start rotating. This was not a lineup that any of us anticipated. And I think alarm bells started ringing pretty early on. The fact that you saw mainly, I think the big things for me about this lineup was the inclusion of Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, Christopher Nkunku, Jadon Sancho remaining a part of the team, Tosin Adarabioyo coming into the defence. Mainly the big headline was that Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson and also Motka Correa all on the bench for this game. And of course, all of them would eventually come off the bench later in it. It just didn't sit right. It didn't feel like the right moment to do it. I would have had no issue with Enzo Maresca rotating like this on Thursday in Warsaw. I would have had no issue with it whatsoever. For this game, it felt wrong, particularly after the momentum that was built after Thursday and wanting to build on that further. The counter to this, right, is that both Palmer and especially Jackson have just come back from injuries. And what you don't want to do a day after we heard that Fofana's season is basically over, is to risk players' fitness so much that they're at breaking point. Based on what Maresca said, I don't know what he's going to say post-game, but based on what Maresca said in his pre-match comments, this all seemed to be tactical. I'm not sure how much I buy that, given how it played out in reality. But if he's saying it's tactical, and if you want to take him at his word that it's tactical, then that is quite concerning, because I don't think the profile of team he put out was at all suitable for this game. We knew Brentford, and we know Brentford. It's not a surprise what Brentford away is going to be like. Even Brentford at home, they're a physical, defensively solid at times, and also a very direct team. They're a team that at home haven't done well for a long period of time. Their run of not winning at home still goes on after today's game. But however, we knew that there was a likelihood this was not going to be a simple case of Chelsea turning up, strolling through and winning 3-0, mainly because of Chelsea. Chelsea have not won away in the Premier League since December. That run continues. We will have to go to Fulham, who I believe have just beaten Liverpool. Yes, they have just beaten Liverpool 3-2 today at home. So that's the next chance Chelsea have to win away from home. But I keep on saying this. There's this conflict, I think, that's going on at the moment where fans want to be invested into the season. They feel like the season matters, and getting Champions League football mainly should matter. It should matter a lot, and that should be a defining line between how this season is viewed. And lineups like this just don't reflect that serious is being considered or is appreciated internally. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall starting at this time in the season. Christopher Nkunku, for whatever talent he has been pretty much a disgrace, and it's really disappointed me for a player I rated, but his performances and application again today, just completely unacceptable. I wouldn't mind not seeing him again for the rest of this season. Jadon Sancho, his performances have been poor. I think, again, you saw today a player who I don't know what he's offering other than dribbling. And that may for some people be enough, but his end product is atrocious. And when you rotate that radically, when you decide to leave someone like Palmer, we'll get a little bit to Palmer because there are some issues still there with his performances. You look at that rotation and still no Tyreek George. I mean, Tyreek George must be sat there like, what, mate, like, what do I have to do? Because if you're going to rotate this much, why aren't I getting a look in at that starting lineup? So red flags before the game, and he took a massive risk. Because if Chelsea didn't win, and especially if Chelsea lost this game, obviously all eyes would be looking at Enzo Maresca. And even though Chelsea didn't lose this game, they ended in a way that I kind of predicted. I thought it may end up as a draw, given Chelsea's kind of level of performance away from home. I think people still will be looking at Enzo Maresca. And again, in retrospect, whatever way it goes, if Chelsea end up getting Champions League football, no one will really care. If Chelsea don't get Champions League football, I do think this is one of those occasions where people will look back and go, why didn't you go for it? Because the first half was not a good half for Chelsea. I thought Brentford looked good in terms of being able to play the ball over Chelsea's defence, particularly over Malo Gusto's side. Malo Gusto, unfortunately, after a positive night on Thursday, I think regressed here, especially offensively. Just not good enough performance from him. I don't think he was atrocious in terms of like he was a complete calamity, but especially offensively, I think that's one of fans' biggest frustrations with him. It feels like he's massively regressed. In terms of attack, there was no focal point like there was with Nicholas Jackson there. There was nothing for Chelsea to hit when they were being pressed in their own half. So it became quite easy for Brentford, as any smart team against Chelsea to do, to sit deep, stay compact, limit the space, don't play on your halfway line like Spurs do. Wait for Chelsea to slowly pass the ball around, and then either Nkunku wasn't alert enough at times when he should have been dropping deeper to receive the ball and turn, or just Sanchez was doing what Rob Sanchez does pretty regularly, which is stupidly giving the ball away. And then you try and turn, and you've got the likes of Brian Mbeumo and Wissa, who nearly did contribute to Brentford winning this game. It became a pretty simple game plan, and it became quite clear that Chelsea had absolutely nothing up top. It felt very pre the international break. It felt like we were going back to Arsenal, where there was absolutely nothing in attack for Chelsea to even pose a threat or look like they're going to go on and win this game. I got to give credit to Maresca that he quickly made, I think, the most obvious change, which was bringing on Nicholas Jackson, because Jackson's arrival did make a difference in this game. I think that's undeniable in terms of, again, just quite obvious basic things. Suddenly Chelsea had a focal point. Enzo Fernandez, quite early on in the second half, hit a ball over the top, which is what you want to see Enzo doing a lot more to Nicholas Jackson. Jackson's shot was wayward, but Jackson definitely also helped Chelsea get further up the pitch because, again, suddenly you have someone you can hit to who's going to be able to nod the ball down, bring others into play. That was a positive of the second half, undeniably. But I was a bit disappointed that I know Noni's also back from injury. So again, can he play 90? Probably not. He was taken off, but it was quite frustrating that Sancho remained on. Dewsbury Hall, a bit of a nothing performance. He was taken off. And Reece James was also taken off. Clearly someone who at the moment can't play 90 minutes. Given he was playing at left back, I don't think he had a bad performance. He actually put in a brilliant cross very early on in this game that could have led to a goal. There were some key stops in this game from Robert Sanchez. He made one later on in the game I think it was from Brian Mbeumo. I don't think it was an outstanding save. Flecken, I think, has made like the most. They kept on saying on commentary, Flecken has made like the most saves all season. And I don't think that Sanchez's save was like the greatest save I've ever seen. He had to make some stops in this game, but as a Premier League goalkeeper, as someone playing for Chelsea, I don't think any of those saves, it's nowhere close to like what Mendy was doing at that stadium a couple of years ago. But listen, he kept a clean sheet. I still don't like him on the ball. I think it creates so much nerve around the team, and you can just tell every ground Chelsea go to, the home crowd senses the problem. They sense that when Sanchez has the ball, he is a liability, and I think that only increases the tension in Chelsea players, and I also think probably in him as well, but also especially the home players probably feel there is something to get at here, and that is a real issue. So some positives, I thought Caicedo was my man in the match. I thought Caicedo was brilliant. Caicedo doing what he's been doing, and avoiding a yellow card, which positive, but it goes on to next weekend where if he does get that yellow card, it means he's missing Everton and Liverpool, which would be a real shame. But outstanding in terms of winning those tackles, winning those duels, trying to get Chelsea back on the front foot, back in possession. I thought, again, Caicedo has been the outstanding performer this year. He drops good performance after good performance after good performance, and that's why he, to many, is the player of the season. I didn't think the defence did that bad, given, again, it's quite an awkward game. It did feel like Malo Gusto was the one on the side being targeted. He was outdone in the second half, but just the execution from Kevin Shard, I think, on one occasion beat Gusto, and in his cross was just horrendous. So Chelsea got quite fortunate in that aspect. But I thought the back two of Chalobah and Tosin, I wasn't too surprised him coming in because of his height, because of his physicality. I guess that's the one reason you'd bring him in. But I just, getting back to Maresca and getting back to those players who probably should have started for me, you look at the improvement at times in that second half, and you just wonder what would have happened if it was the other way around. I can't guarantee you that Chelsea would have won the game, but I think I can have some confidence that Chelsea's level of performance and threat in the game would have been a lot better, and maybe would have given them a lead in the game that then later on you have to take off the likes of Jackson, you have to take off the likes of Cole Palmer and Madueke, and then maybe other players come on. It's a difficult situation because the players that he starts, the likes of Sancho, are not performing well, and Nkunku's offering nothing. Dewsbury, I don't think is a great midfield option, offers you next to nothing in terms of creativity. The fullback problem still annoys me. I just don't understand. It goes back to Maresca again. I think the style of football has become so bland and so predictable, and if you aren't a dumb team that comes up against Chelsea and decides to sit on your halfway line and then allow Chelsea to hit a ball over the top, it becomes quite obvious what Chelsea are going to do. And it just feels like there's a real lack of just invention or oomph to this team. And I think that's why people find it difficult to relate to this team and connect with them and feel like it's a team that you really feel is going in an upward trajectory at the moment, because everything feels so slow, it feels so pedestrian. And unfortunately, this performance was much more like pre-international break than anywhere close to what I think inspired us about Thursday's game, unfortunately. I just want to end the show talking about Cole Palmer. Palmer had a chance late on. You could tell he was quite devastated that he didn't get it on target. But there were moments in that second half when either I think he made the wrong choice, where he goes on his own when he maybe could have played in a teammate. He is starting to go. People picked it up on Thursday that he's starting to find pockets of space in the left channel where he drifts over to that side, and usually it's the case of him receiving the ball from, say, Marco Correa and then trying to whip a ball into the near post for Jackson, let's say, to try and get onto. I don't think that's a bad idea by Enzo Maresca, and could lead to Chelsea creating some really good looks at goal to try and get behind maybe structured defences, because, Palmer, you think of him operating more in a central area where he creates his opportunities. Maybe it's trying to find a new way to get Palmer looks at goal or influence the game. And if you think about the way we won the game on Thursday, it was him crossing the ball out on the left. However, there are just times I look at Palmer, I think he needs to get better on his weaker foot. There is a real tendency when all he can do is try and hit a shot with his right foot. He doesn't look as comfortable to me as obviously when he is on his left foot. Just that maverick kind of main character energy just doesn't seem to be there with Palmer at the moment. He doesn't look like the instinctive finisher that was there 12 months ago, even 6-7 months ago. He doesn't seem to be grabbing games by the scruff of the neck or, really lifting up Chelsea. I'm not saying it's completely gone. You do still sense maybe tension in the opposition when he receives the ball, and kind of a sense that something may happen when Palmer gets the ball. Obviously, he created the winner on Thursday, so you can't say he's doing nothing to contribute. However, it just feels like something's not quite there. And that's a real shame, because I do think that's something that has to come back into play if Chelsea want to get Champions League football. The state of play, I'm recording this and the kickoff between United and City is about to happen. We can hope that United maybe pull something out of the bag. But obviously Villa won over the weekend. It's not a great situation, because I think what it effectively does now is it puts so much pressure on these away games. I think Chelsea will need to win one of their last few remaining away games. I still think that's unavoidable, and it also heaps so much pressure on those home games. The home form has undeniably been strong for a period of time now, but it means that it's got to be flawless. It means that when we face Ipswich, Everton, Liverpool obviously after that, who may or may not be champions, obviously based on today's result, it may get to Stamford Bridge and them having to win the Premier League title and Man United. It means you kind of can't afford to drop many more points there, and that increases the pressure and dynamic. Every opponent's different. Every opponent's going to give you, benefits and, pros and cons. But again, today, I think you saw a case of a team who haven't been great for a while in Brentford, especially at home. I don't think needed to do much to either create looks at Chelsea's goal or just kind of stifle Chelsea. And that's a major, major problem that I just still concern and wonder if that's going to be the thing that defines Chelsea not getting Champions League football. But we will see. It's not a defeat. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world, like everything's over, but it does increase the pressure and scrutiny on Chelsea, undeniably. Those are my thoughts on the game. Please let me know yours in the comments below. If you want more written, video, audio work from SonOfChelsea, go down the link in the description box below if you're listening on the podcast or on YouTube. You can check out and subscribe to my Substack to get more content for only £4 a month. So thank you so much. Follow across the socials at SonOfChelsea, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.